Hi everyone, let's just dip right into this one with your friendly neighborhood foreigner and see what Uncle Joe has been up to. He banned journalists from attending the border in what's been described as a historical media blackout while he's conducting the largest influx of illegal migration in the history of American Border Patrol. This according to the president of the National Border Patrol Council, adding that the numbers are very overwhelming. Just in March alone, America saw an influx of nearly 200,000 illegal immigrants. This is almost half the entire number in 2020, all the while the White House has stayed silent and firmly claimed there's not a crisis at the border. On this chart here, you can observe the blue line and see what's happened with illegal immigration as soon as Biden took office. This is the highest level that the United States has seen in 20 years. And it has created immense profit for Mexico's ruthless drug cartels that are making a fortune off of Biden's liberal migration policy, while using children as decoys for smuggling. By funding the cartels, illegal immigration is making them stronger, a similar effect to the one caused by America's pointless war on drugs. Families often end up paying for these services by becoming drug smugglers, and many who travel using these smugglers are often pressured into so-called debt bondage if they're unable to pay for the services. The president of the National Border Patrol Council also told the media, "I personally have apprehended groups from China, Bangladesh, Russia, Poland, and Brazil. These criminal organizations are allowed to go into these countries, and they're allowed to advertise their services and make billions of dollars off of human misery. And it is based upon our policies." This was also confirmed by the Center for Immigration Studies, who frequently reported over the past months that migrants in Mexico were looking forward to a Democrat winning the presidency. This so they could storm the border. The Trump administration decreased illegal immigration by working towards it being handled in courts through visa applications instead, rather than incentivizing dangerous migration through human smugglers and mafia. Now all this has been undone by the Biden administration, which removed several Trump-era key policies, thus creating this crisis. The media blackout issued by Biden has caused even mainstream media to turn on him now, with CNN headlines such as "Reporters call out Biden administration for lack of transparency at the border." And of course they would be upset, because mainstream media has lost tons of revenue and attention ever since Trump left office, with CNN losing 45% of viewers and Washington Post around 26%. No wonder they had to invent things to take out of context for 4 years straight, because it made them rich. But now they have a president that won't even give them the chance to report, fairly or not. Should be mentioned that in addition to banning journalists from observing his policies, other totalitarian attitudes include Biden wanting to take internet censorship further by revoking Section 230 protections. In essence, that would make social media companies forced to act like publishers rather than neutral forums that abide by the First Amendment. Biden has also called video game developers, quote, "little creeps whose games are teaching you how to kill people," end of quote. So are video games next on the ban list now, Uncle Joe? We'll deal with that in a different video in the near future. For now, let's look at what this award-winning journalist had to say. "I have photographed CBP under Bush, Obama, and Trump, but now zero access is granted to the media. There is no modern precedent for a full physical ban on media access to CBP border operations. The Border Patrol has been removing journalists who enter, including recently myself, CBS, and others." End of quote. And boy, oh boy, you're about to find out why. Thanks to one whistleblower Democrat in Texas, pictures were leaked of the facilities showing what the media wasn't allowed access to. Adults, as well as hundreds of children, packed in terrible conditions, sleeping on the floor back-to-back with makeshift beds, using aluminum sheets as blankets, in rooms more crowded than they're designed to handle. A top Republican also shared footage from the border. After taking a visit there, it became apparent this is what Biden and Harris don't want you to see. Is this really what humanitarianism looks like? Because do keep in mind, it certainly doesn't look like this with legal immigration, where there's a legitimate application process and you can at least stay with family until you're accepted. While this, according to the politician, is more akin to child abuse. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki commented on the photos, saying that these pictures show what we've long been saying, which is these Border Patrol facilities are not places made for children. And a Democrat who leaked these photos commented saying, "You just can't say, yeah, let everybody in, because then we're affected down here at the border. The bad guys know how to market this." Referring to mafia and illegal immigration. A connection I've observed here in Sweden as well. Here too, criminal gangs seize on the opportunity to make use of disenfranchised, newly arrived refugees who are new to the country, don't really know how things work, and it's pretty much like Scarface.
Fuck you.
Twitter has this fun function where every time a conservative says something, algorithms will automatically push leftist posts to the top, making it look like everyone thinks they're an idiot. So too was the case here, as I can't see why this lack of brainpower got so promoted.
How many visits did you make when Trump was president?
That's what I thought. Now suddenly you care? Why exactly? It was all good when Trump was in office. Why this sudden outrage?
Yeah, why would a politician visit the border under Trump when there wasn't a border crisis under Trump? Because he was doing his job right. This is a crisis directly created by Biden and nobody else. Both partisan and non-partisan alike are pretty able to see that. Trying to claim otherwise is like saying political policies can't be connected to reality. No, they quite visibly and obviously are. But more importantly, how is this better than legal immigration where you get to stay at home with your family awaiting a decision? That's a specific policy Biden chose not to pursue further, adding to this influx, and saying how some people can't distinguish legal immigration, which is safer for the migrant, from illegal immigration, which is just dangerous. A Republican in Texas predicted that 1 million people are going to try and make their way into the United States by summer, and that it's going to get a lot worse than it is now. Quote, "The message is coming back that, hey, we got a new president, come on in, we're open for business to the traffickers."
Not only our Muslim communities, but African communities, Asian communities, Hispanic communities, and the wave still continues. It's not going to stop, nor should we want it to stop. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things I think we can be most proud of. Folks like me who are Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America, from then and on, will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
In 2015, Joe Biden said it's a good thing that white Europeans are going to become a minority in America in just a few decades. In 2021, he opens the border in what's been described as a historically large influx of illegals. Do the math. What's described as a border crisis is really just a long-term tactic to win and retain desperate voters. This is essentially why Blexit was created, because too many non-whites see through the Democrat voter scheme and compare it to a modern-day plantation.
Most of the cities, and you mentioned Ferguson, you mentioned Baltimore, the cities where there are the most shootings, Chicago, we can go through the list of these cities. People don't seem to want to accept this, or at least mainstream media doesn't want to accept this, that these are Democrat-run cities.
Right. It's politically expedient for them to evade the issue. And you say, well, the virtue of having a D behind your name is... No, it's not. It's the policies. Think about this. Who's anti-police? Democrats. And what are they doing? They're causing police not to act. They're causing police to be the enemy of the people. People aren't snitching. They're not cooperating with police. Now crimes aren't being solved. Those things have issues. They want you to be on food stamps. They don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to go out and get it on your own. They don't want jobs to come to your community. They don't want that. They need you to need them so they can win votes. And it's almost like this. Look, I equate slavery and then the freedom of slaves to the Democratic Party today. And this is how I compare the two. When slaves were on a plantation, they knew it was wrong, whatever the case may be. The slaves didn't want to be there. But when they got free, what did the slave master tell them? Oh, wait. How are you going to survive out there on your own? Who's going to take care of you? You're going to have food. We can feed you. We'll take care of you. Make sure you're safe. Stay here in slavery. And a lot of slaves did. They felt comfortable. They didn't want to go out on their own and risk the big bad world. Become entrepreneurs. Be free. The Democratic Party is almost the same similar concept because black folks need to be free. We need to understand that we can be entrepreneurs. We can be flight attendant. We can do it all. They don't want you to go into this big bad world and fail. Failure is only a pathway to success. If you never fail, you will never be successful. They don't want you to get off the plantation. They want you to stay so they can coddle you. And then what? Our communities become desolate.
The situation has gotten so bad, a border mayor felt forced to beg Biden to stop releasing illegals into his city because they'll be forced to leave them without resources. It really is as simple as money doesn't grow on trees. Mayors said they've been outsourcing dialysis treatment for local persons in need, and illegal undocumented migration is making it very hard to deal with the COVID crisis, as documenting and tracing the virus contagion are very important methods. So, long story short, Biden is now building a wall instead, which he promised he wouldn't do, and suddenly I'm seeing a slightly different tone in the media about what it means to build that wall. This headline about how it would be a good thing feels kind of like a unicorn given the past 4 years of hysteria. The claim from Biden's administration is we're just gonna fill in some gaps here and there in key security spots, just plugging up some leaks, nothing to see here. So now the question remains, will he actually do it? And how much of it? Is Biden going to allow thousands and thousands of Democrat voters, I meant illegals, into America? And if so, what would that mean for America? Or is this just a cosmetic headline as some kind of buy me some time reaction to deal with the political pressure that's been amounting over this issue? While we wait around for Unky Joe to make a decision about America's future, I'm gonna share some financial data on the effects of illegal immigration. But first, the mandatory YouTuber donation plug. Are you aware I now have a mailing list that actually works compared to YouTube notifications, which you constantly comment to complain about, letting me know how many videos you've missed? Well, if you follow me on here, you will never miss a single video, and we can get off together big time. And we don't have to deal with a creepy third-party surveillance big tech turd just creeping over our emails like they're trying to make the NSA jealous. Don't you want to get off with me? Because if so, links to my alt-tech social media can be found in the video description, along with donation alternatives so you can support my channel and help keep this all going. I very much enjoy crypto, so you'll find that info there as well, because in case I didn't mention it enough, I like getting off. And if you like getting off, then subscribe to my newsletter and click that subscribe button and give this video a like so this video can reach more people. Sorry to bug you with a YouTuber stereotype, it's just that algorithms work that way. And all that engagement combined generally makes my channel more visible and recommended. Now let's continue with our juicy infotainment. I honestly don't think it's weird for Uncle Joe to build a wall, if he decides to do so, because Democrats have this weird tradition of advocating policies that they don't even believe in personally. In fact, Obama extended America's border wall much more than Trump did. Trump mostly upgraded existing border protection and expanded the barrier with 49 miles, whereas Obama added an additional 128 miles to that wall. Little known is that both Biden and Obama have voted for expanded border security prior, so there's nothing historically strange about Biden wanting to continue Trump's project. What's strange is the fake Democrat outrage constructed to win votes. Oh wait, that's not strange at all. It actually makes a lot of sense as a cheap tactic. Look, it's pretty obvious it's just not a good idea to let just about anyone into your country at any given time. If you think open borders sounds like a good idea, try being the moderator of even a moderately sized forum, and you'll see that the world is not as pink as they want to make you believe. Illegal immigration undermines legal migration, and as an illegal, your only options really are drugs, gangs, or shady work that goes undocumented. It's not too uncommon with conditions similar to slave labor, and it's really just a roll of the dice until you get hurt. The fear of being deported by ICE makes them involuntarily create an exclusion culture, meaning Democrat policies drive segregation. What made Trump different is he tried restoring both the USA's and Mexico's economies, pressuring Mexico for better labor conditions rather than trying to solve complex problems through migration. The wrong kind of policy entices people to migrate illegally, which is usually accompanied with very dangerous risk, lethal risk. Everyone knows about the snuff exploit picture the media published of Alan Kurdi, the refugee boy. Not as many people know that he didn't die while escaping a war. The family were already safe in Turkey. but the dad insisted on yet another illegal travel so he could get to Sweden, where the living standard is even higher, at which point everyone but the dad died. Very tragic, and it's worth thinking deeper about who actually gave him that idea. Because as you've seen with many migrants who actually make it here to Sweden, only to receive a shock, because Sweden is not a paradise, and living in a ghetto isn't exactly worth risking your life for. Those who migrate illegally typically rely on human smugglers, who sometimes take them as slaves instead of transporting them to the desired country. It's also common to be kidnapped in exchange for ransom, with many being killed when families can't afford to pay it, or forced to become a drug mule. There's also other risks I don't see talked about very often. Numerous heartbreaking examples are highlighted in this BBC article, with several Africans talking about how their families disowned them when they returned from Europe, bringing nothing. Article also covers how various humanitarian funding agencies just don't get the money to where it's supposed to be. So focusing on how to build up infrastructure and teach people to take care of themselves might be better than just throwing money into complex issues. The Africans interviewed in this article all wish they'd never even tried migrating to begin with, because it's not as simple and generous as a leftist politician wants to make it sound. A meta-study looking at 349 studies concluded welfare is an important factor in what country people choose to migrate to. Furthermore, there's reason to believe hyper-generous policies and bombastic rhetoric about how welcoming your country is directly pushes people into the hands of mafia and human smugglers, and those who are lucky enough to get a random positive result just end up in a country where they're super segregated. Nowadays, you read about Africans in London moving back to Africa because they can't stand the violence. And you see the same thing in Sweden, with many regretting they came here as well. In fact, numerous of our most notorious migrant killings and terror attacks over the past years have had perpetrators all sharing the same motive. After a long and painful journey that took years, they got denied asylum and chose to enact revenge when that decision got denied. Put simply, these are tragedies that could have been avoided. The meta-study I mentioned was partially following up on the research of George J. Boreas, a professor of economics at Harvard who studied immigration for 15 years. He wrote an article that covers the topic in depth with nuance. It's a very good read, and I'll link it in my video description along with the rest of my sources as always. But to sum up the key findings, immigration absolutely hurts the working class. Wage trends over the past half-century suggest that a 10% increase in the number of workers with a particular set of skills lowers the wage of that group by at least 3%. Immigrants admitted in the past 2 decades, lacking a high school diploma, have increased the size of low-skilled workforce by roughly 25%. As a result, the earnings of this particularly vulnerable group dropped by between $800 and $1,500 each year, which might not sound a lot to some, but this is a lot of money when you're lower class. He also gives examples for how, say, a chicken processing plant in Georgia was raided by immigration agents, and 75% of its workforce vanished over a single weekend. Similarly, the flood of recent news reports on abuse of the H-1B visa program shows that firms will quickly dismiss their current tech workforce when they find cheaper immigrant workers, which I've certainly noticed myself when trying to get any kind of help or information by Google's support team for creators. Either they're using very poorly developed AI, or the person calling themselves Dave is really a Hindu. He also adds that both sides are leaving out the full truth, Trump as well as Democrats. There's a proven negative effect of mass immigration, but also potential positives. Immigration can increase the net increase in the total wealth of the population, but due to welfare overrepresentation and lower taxes paid due to low-level jobs, it ends up being a net neutral nothing. Primarily, it is those who run companies that benefit from immigration, rather than common working-class people. At the end of the day, immigration policy is really just another redistribution program. And so this really brings to mind that the wrong migration policy definitely creates ethnic tensions, polarization, and, unfortunately, radicalization. If you're wondering why so many people voted for Trump to begin with, this article here pretty much sums it up. It is also sad how rare it is to see that it's really not talked about how illegal immigration is very bad for legal immigration. Legal immigrants, that is, meaning normal people who happen to have a migrant background. So what exactly is pro-left about this stance? There's nothing about it that signifies progressive thinking, empathy for working class, or even basic concern for immigrants who want a future in America and a safe life. You can really tell that many liberals don't care about minorities because they're literally incapable of putting themselves in their shoes. They haven't even done that. They haven't even spent 5 minutes to themselves thinking, how would I feel if I immigrated legally and had everyone think I'm a criminal because of these illegal immigrants? Wouldn't that ruin my options to become established in my new country? As all groups of people develop reputations, I'd like to at least try to preserve the one of my ethnic group. To me, this is not a complex reasoning. I don't see why it is for other people. I would like to finish this video with a quote from Malcolm X, as he's a very popular, well-liked guy that leftists like to quote a lot. The white liberal is the worst enemy to America and the worst enemy to the black man.